We're off to the races.
Lovely. Things you love to see, eh? It's been a while, boys. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a long
Dust off those cobwebs.
Particularly for me. I've got to get my rant style back.
Hello and welcome to Season 2 of FPL By Dummies. I'm your host Tom, with your hosts Cam and Josh. We're back. Hope you've probably not missed us, let's be honest. But we're back again, fill in your ears. So my apologies. Cam, Josh, how are we?
The terrific trio are back together. Who are we? Who thought that we would be naming it Season 2? Do we think we're Luther or The Wire or something like that? I mean, those are all like Idris Elba series, but
I'm hoping we're more Line of Duty, because that felt like it got better with every series, but we just shouldn't do like a series 6 or whatever the most recent one was. Like, we'll just stop
I'm trying to think what was like one of those series where like the first series was absolutely atrocious, because I think that sums it up pretty well, and then the second series could be like slightly better.
I'd tell you what, there's a trilogy that's quite good, Lord of the Rings. I preferred the second one.
Second one's good, and then the third one's going to be the best.
Yeah.
So basically, if you start listening to us this year, then you may as well turn off, not listen this season, come in for Season 3, because apparently that's where all the Oscars come in. So.
And then, if you want anything to actually make sense, you'll have to listen back to us when we replay the seasons, but the extended editions, where we actually have the bits that make sense in the middle.
What, there'll be like the bit where we're like sat in the pub drinking.
Exactly, yeah. And we're like, this sounds like a good idea. Let's do a podcast where we call ourselves Dummies and talk about FPL that we don't understand.
Then we'll release our old episodes from university, and that will be The Hobbit.
The prequel episode is brilliant.
Oh, God.
Brilliant.
Which I'm sure no one wants to hear.
Yeah, and they will be shit.
But I say the only people enjoying them would definitely be just us. We'd just be sat there going, oh, this is so good. And the people listening to it going, what the fuck is this?
Literally, the production value sat in Josh's room around his phone, just trying to speak into it. Oh dear, the good old days.
I remember the days. That was good. Right. Can we just get it over with?
Yeah.
We are recording on a Monday evening. The Monday after the Sunday. And the Sunday being the England versus Italy match. I personally am just angry. But I want to feel your guys' emotions about the match and about, Gareth Southgate, England as a whole. Let's open it up for wide discussion.
I don't know. I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. No, generally I am just disappointed because lots has been made of Southgate and this England group from 2018 to now, kind of re-engaging the nation. And I definitely was one of those people. I was just disillusioned with international football as a whole. It just wasn't exciting. This whole tournament has been really great to watch. I mean, the first round of knockout games were incredible when we had that 5-3 with Spain and the 3-3 with France and Switzerland. Like, they were just, that was what the international matches I grew up watching were like. And then even better, England doing well. And so, yeah, it was just a great feeling. I mean, I felt it back in 2018, and Josh has expressed the same sentiment about this tournament, but I would be disappointed if England hadn't got to the final this time around. Given the group we had, the people we faced in the knockout stages, yeah, it was great to beat the likes of Germany, and, the slightly easier nations in inverted commas, because those are the sort of places that we fell down before. We lost to, only as recent as 2016, we lost to Iceland. So we did a good job, and so there was real expectation and excitement going into the final. Despite Italy being favourites, they won every single game they played this tournament. I'm still optimistic, and I don't know, where did you boys watch the game? I was just at home.
Yeah, same.
But I had it on iPlayer, which was naturally a minute behind. And I heard this roar from down the street, just I think someone's house. I don't live near a pub or anything. And I was like, oh, what's happened there then? And then Shaw arriving at the back post and rocketing it in. And I was like, in dreamland, this is the best possible start. Just at sky high. And Italy were always going to come back into it. They've been immense for 33 games. But yeah, I just think disappointment in the end. We were so close. I was daring to dream of what it would be like yesterday, Just it finally, England being successful. We're all 20-something getting on towards, dare I say it, 30. But all our lives, all we've known is England not doing well. And to finally be that close, it was just heartbreaking.
Yeah, Tom, do you want to break this up with some positivity, and then I'll bring it right back down to earth again? We'll kind of do it. We'll kind of do a double-edged sword type thing,
like a sandwich.
A sandwich.
The nice happy filling, and you're the dry, crusty. I guess the end pieces of the loaf.
Literally am that knob on the end that nobody wants.
I don't know. I think so. Yesterday I watched it in the pub. I went there about to be honest, I went and got my seat at about midday. So to be honest, my memory and cloudiness of the game was definitely subdued by several pints of beer. But I didn't think we played that badly yesterday. Once they scored the goal, they obviously then decided the way they were going to play, and it was going to be basically going to defend it. But I thought, they obviously scored that really scrappy goal at Italy, and then in extra time, I thought we were the better team. I thought if anyone was going to go out and win it, I thought it would have been us. I really enjoyed it. It was nice to watch a game of football where, because we were ahead for most of it, it wasn't sat there going, this is really rubbish. I was actually sat there enjoying watching the game because it was, we're 1-0 up in the final. I thought England played really well for pretty much the entire tournament. So the fact we were in the final in the first place, I thought, it was all pretty positive. I know a lot of people got quite annoyed about, we didn't use the subs very well, and there's all those little nitpicky things where, it could have gone different, but I think we just have to accept that we got to the final of an international tournament. We were beaten by probably the best team in the tournament, even though they had a couple of dodgy games in the knockouts. And so I'm sort of in that position where I'm not even really that disappointed, because I'm sort of pretty happy with how we did. And maybe that's because we've done so badly over so many years that just to watch us win games, get to the final, winning in extra time in the semi-final, like the fact that we went to extra time and we actually won a game in added time is like, that's never happens to us. It's always like, oh, we lose this shitty goal in extra time, or it goes to penalties and we lose, like yesterday. But I just didn't think it was that bad. I'm sort of pretty positive, and so I think just before Josh brings it down, I saw one person today, and he said, and one of my mates was like, oh, just Southgate needs to go, blah blah blah, just being so negative with Southgate. And it was like, realistically, who would you have coming in instead? Like, actually think about it. Like, I can't think of any manager I'd rather have in than Southgate at the moment, that you can actually physically get. One of my friends said, oh, Bielsa will come to England, manage England. I was like, brilliant, mate. I was like, fantastic. I was like, oh, let's have Alf Ramsey manage it. Oh wait, he's dead. It's like, what a stupid comment.
No, I mean, I think you're the at 10 on the happiness. I'm probably wavering in and around about like 7 or so, and Josh is about 4 or 5.
I'm just still drunk.
No, I am overall positive, because you can't not be. As you say, we got to the final, and as I mentioned, there are plenty of times we've fallen down far easier hurdles. I mean, it's important to remember, everyone kind of laments the golden generation not capitalising. We did play against some really good teams when we got knocked out. So 2002 is the first one I remember. We lost to the eventual winners. 2004 we lost to the eventual winners. Oh no, they didn't win it. Sorry, that was 2002. 2000, sorry. But we lost to Portugal, a great team. Same in 2006. Germany, were in the absolute prime in 2010. It was only really Iceland was, in my memory, the games that we should have won, and maybe like Sweden in the World Cup. So, you do have to enjoy the ride, and it was great. And there are different ways to win a football match. So definitely Italy, I think, were the better team over the course of the game. But we do have to remember that we didn't lose to them in terms of in normal time. We drew. And as you say, they were the best team in the tournament. So it wasn't like we got absolutely wiped the floor with. We held our own, and Liverpool didn't play the best in the Champions League final, but we managed to grind out the result, and we were kind of playing that way yesterday. It was just really unfortunate scrappy goal. Pickford makes an unbelievable save, like from point blank range. If that's another couple of inches to the right, it either goes round the post or hits the post and bounces to safety almost. But as it is, it comes back off the inside, and Bonucci is the one that's alive to knock it in. So I think overall, you can't not be pleased with how the tournament turned out. I just think we do have to be quite realistic in that if we hadn't made it to the final, and hadn't come this close, I think we would have all been quite disappointed, given the talent we've got and the teams we played, because we could have easily finished second in our group and ended up playing a France or Portugal or someone like that a lot sooner, and that would have been a lot more difficult run than the one we ended up having. So yeah, definitely positives to take from the tournament. But I just think once you're at that final, you have to, you know, be going to win it. Like, you can't not just be like, oh well, if we lose, you know, we'll be happy we got to the final. Like, when you're there, you have to try and win it. So I think that's where the disappointment comes in, that you get to the final and you have this expectation and hope, and to then not deliver on that is heartbreaking.
I think that's summed up. I think that's actually the difference between mine and your opinion, is the fact that I've supported Brentford for 27 years and you supported Liverpool for 27 years. And I'm used to the heartbreak of losing finals where you're used to winning them. So, Josh, you ready to bring us down?
Yeah, go on then. So, Italy had 19 shots versus our 6, had 6 on target versus our 2, had 66% of the possession, had 820 passes versus our 420. Basically battered us for parts of the game, particularly the second half, the first from 45 through to about 75 when the goal ended up coming in the 67th minute or something, I think, from Bonucci. We did nothing. It was actually like we hadn't come out to play in the second half. And quite frankly, it was whenever we received the ball at the back, the players looked up and there was no one there, because Declan and Calvin were doing what they needed to do, which was sitting deep. And we then had 3 players up front, and that was it. And there was so much Italian pressure. So the press was so good from Italy that we had no outs. And if I'm a manager watching that, I'm thinking, right, hang on, we're 1-0 up here up until the 67th minute. We should be trying to do something to change this, because if it continues this way, it's going to go to 1-1. Exactly what happened. And my frustrations are, I don't understand why people like Phil Foden are sat on the bench for that long.
He did have a knock, Foden. He wasn't even in the squad.
He was in the squad. He came on.
Foden in the Italy game, he didn't come on.
Or am I just imagining it? He came on.
Imagine it.
Foden got a knock on Friday because he was in like trainers and like just a general tracksuit. Like, he wasn't on the bench. I'm pretty sure he wasn't on the bench because there was talk that he might miss out, but then I think they announced the squad and he fully was just not in it because he got a knock on Friday in training.
Oh, you're correct.
But
okay,
I mean, they definitely. I definitely agree. They should have changed the system and reacted to the Italy change, because Italy changed it at half time, and as you say, we were getting bombarded. So.
Right, yeah. I mean, now look like a right idiot on my rant, but I'll continue anyway.
Well, they could have brought Grealish on. They could have brought Grealish on
well,
sooner.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to sidestep slightly and go, oh yeah, well, Foden never wanted to come on anyway. But, you know, like, for me, Grealish, Sancho really should have come on earlier. I still think Bellingham could have played as well. And throughout the tournament, I felt similar frustrations. I think in the 90 minutes against Denmark, I think we made 1 sub.
But so just on before you go on though, obviously you said you think Grealish should come on sooner, but who for? Because obviously,
Mount was out on his feet. He was non-existent.
Saka came on for Mount though.
Yeah, but Grealish should have come on instead of Saka to start with.
Yeah, but obviously, but I mean, he did. His decision was to go for Saka instead of Grealish, who is an attacking player. Like, this is my thoughts basically.
Yeah,
he didn't. It wasn't like he didn't bring on an attacker. He didn't bring on like. It's not like he brought on, I don't know, Jordan Henderson or like someone defensive to start with.
I just don't think he changed up enough. I think he did a 1-for-1, but they didn't actually go more attacking. And I just think we sat there on the back foot, just getting battered. I just thought we need to change something up. And for me, the whole tournament, that was the case. It's so easy to say, oh, we played really well. I don't remember watching the Croatia match thinking we played very well. I thought we got really lucky against Croatia. We didn't beat Scotland. We had to put 1 past to beat the Czech Republic, and we didn't dominate them. Germany, granted, I'm happy with the Germany performance of the Ukraine. That's 2 games. But against Denmark, I think he just sat there and just trusted his team to beat Denmark and didn't change the system and just hoped. After 90 minutes, I think they had made all 5 subs and we had made 1. How stupid would it have looked if we had gone out and we had people flat out after 85 minutes and he's not making a sub? Like, I don't understand the logic when we're not really dominating the game.
I think there's got to be like a halfway house. I mean, rightly so, Gareth have had like loads of plaudits for how we performed this tournament, and lots of the time people criticised his kind of, and I know you're talking about during the game, but lots of time people can criticise his decisions before the game, the lineups he picked and stuff. And ultimately we made it to the final. Now, yeah, it probably could have been a bit more comfortable if he'd had made better in-game decisions. But I think, you know, there have been teams who, you know, the Spain team of 2010 and all that sort of stuff, they didn't win. They won all their games 1-0, 1-0, 1-0, 2-1 at best on their way to winning the World Cup. So, you know, obviously we would have preferred to be more comfortable in those games, but I just think he no doubt made mistakes during this tournament. There are things that could have been done better. I just think they're more highlighted in the final because we ended up losing.
I just think it's so easy to like say we got to the final and yeah, well, Spain won in this way and like but quite frankly, we didn't play the best football, and I agree that I think he made the right lineup decisions. I think anyone in the world could have predicted it though. It was like, we're going to play a 5-back against Germany, we're going to play a 5-back against Italy, but against lesser teams we're going to play 4 at the back and go a little bit more attacking. Like, I'm not being funny, anyone can do that in the world. Like, obviously the tactics that go underneath it, I'm not going to pretend I'm a better manager than Gareth Southgate because he has about 100 times better football knowledge than I do.
And that's being
generous. I'm a dummy. But at the same time, it's so predictable. And how can you not win with that team? How are you having to grind out 1-0s against the Czech Republic? How are you having to grind out 1-0s against Croatia? How are you drawing with Scotland? Like, it's all got forgotten because we then got through, beat Germany. Granted, I thought against Germany we were great. I genuinely do. But again, the players are as good as the other team. I was thinking, like, how do I bring this to FPL? I thought, like, the way I see it is, like, we were a Man United or Liverpool, like, the equivalent. And, like, Germany were probably a Leicester or a West Ham. Like, and then you look down, and, like, I think most of the other opposition were, like, Southampton, Crystal Palace, Wolves, Newcastle, Aston Villa that we played. And you would expect those teams to be beaten. And that's the thing, is it's like looking at it and going, oh, well, we got to the final. It's like, yeah, we bloody should have.
Yeah, no, I do agree. Like, with the Germany, I think in years gone by, you know, England have played poor Germany teams and still gone out. So we had a mental block, and it was good to get over that. You know, most of these players shouldn't have that mental block because they're not old enough, but we managed to beat them in a knockout game. Great. But I do think we have to remember that the Germany wasn't the best team. You know, again, as you say, it's the sort of team that we would have expected to beat. The only kind of reason there was a bit more kind of uncertainty about it was because they're Germany and they have that aura and mystique about them. But when you look through their team, they're either aging or their players are out of form. You know, Havertz scored the winning goal in the final and scored a good few goals at this tournament, but generally speaking, he hasn't lit the tournament up. Müller has been really good for Bayern for the past 2 years, but he's 30-something now, whatever, really getting on quite a bit. Gnabry was good last season, not this one just gone, but the one before, but kind of hasn't really been picked by Bayern. So, you know, these are all kind of Germany's key players, and they're either kind of on the downhill or just out of form generally. So, yeah, I would have been really disappointed if we didn't beat them. So, I get where you're coming from. I just think, yeah, he definitely could have, you know, changed it up, whether that was going to 4-back, taking Trippier off, Walker maybe being still kind of defensive because his pace was so vital for getting us out of jail against just every team we played, basically. But just doing something to change it up, whether that was going 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3, I don't know.
I realised he did do that, didn't he? I just thought about it. It wasn't Mount off for Saka, it was Trippier off for Saka. And they went 4 at the back. Saka played more of a right wing back, I guess. But
yeah, he went a little bit more attacking. Granted, I'll give him that. Like,
but and I know I don't know if you guys are done, but we'll move on to the penalties. You know, it's one of those. I do get where people are coming from about Rashford and Sancho being cold and not having had time to warm up into the game, and that is a valid point. But I think the quality that they are. Yes, they do need to warm up, but I think that they could.
If you watch any professional player before they go on, they warm up and they warm up by taking shots. They warm up by, in golf, like if you watch people, they generally take a while to get up to their top swing speed. If you watch people in basketball, they practice their 3-pointers before the game.
Wimbledon this weekend, they rally against each other for a few minutes before the start of the game. No, I do take that point, but I just think the quality of the players, it's one of those. I think Rashford was, he sent Donnarumma the wrong way. You can't really criticise the technique because he's not the most prolific penalty taker. He's missed a few for United, but generally speaking, that technique has worked for him. In the Champions League quarters, was it? No, last 16 against PSG. A really tough game. 2 years ago, he's even younger than he is now. He steps up and dispatches it against Buffon, one of the best keepers in the world. So that technique works for him. I think it's just there is an inherent risk in it, which we saw yesterday, where he's looking at the keeper the whole time, and so he doesn't have an eye where the ball is, and he kind of hits it with his heel, which scuffs it onto the post.
Personally, I have no problem with the actual penalty takers. I just think they came on too late. I think they're the right penalty takers, particularly Rashford. Rashford, if you look at our squad and you go, who actually takes penalties? Rashford is
100%.
Fair play to Maguire for stepping up, but like Rashford,
quality penalty as well.
Yeah.
I said it on our chat, but I loved the way the camera went, like the static of it, because it was just so emphatic.
I said never. He shouldn't take penalties again, though, mind, because he literally laced that. Like if you watch the angle of the ball, that was spinning out. So either
curling.
Either that is perfect, or that was an inch away from being literally in the crowd.
A Sergio Ramos rose.
Yeah,
I expected
space.
I expected him to instep that one, and then it came off the outside of his foot, and I was like, oof, and then it just nestled in the top corner.
Yeah, I mean that's fair, but I just
and to be fair, talking about penalties as well, Pickford was incredible.
Yeah,
as well.
unbelievable.
I don't know what's happened to him in this world. Like I did not like him.
He's always been good at penalties. To be fair for him, I didn't want him to start. I thought he ended up getting injured, but I wanted Pope. And then it was kind of a toss-up between him and Henderson because they both have their drawbacks. But Pickford's always been good at penalties. I did expect Jorginho to score. So we talked about it just before we came live that we were all expecting Jorginho to just roll it in. That's it, game over. Particularly given the Spain game. Sorry. And Shearer said it. He was like, "I'll just stay up, just wait to see where he goes." And that's all well and good, but if he's picked his spot and you guess the wrong way, then you're still screwed. But Pickford did really well to stand as long as he could, and he ended up guessing the right way as well. But that was an unbelievable save onto the post and then back again. But
it's just one of those where we lost the game. It's only a game, and to be honest, I think that really is why I think, well, obviously Cam, you want to speak about it more so, but I think that's why it makes the next bit even more ridiculous. The fact that at the end of the day, it is just a game. And yes, it's enjoyment, but yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, with the racism, as I mentioned, the pressure those boys are under, to think that they don't know what they're going through, it baffles me. And I don't think, we talked about it before we came live again, I don't think that most of the people who are criticising these boys online actually think that they're abusing them, but I think that they are kind of being given airtime, which is a difficult balance to strike because the airtime kind of gives them the exposure, but then you don't want to address it, so then people aren't hurt. And, we want to get it out there so we can do something about it, but then at the same time, it's what they want. They're sat there like clapping their hands together because they've got on Twitter or Sky News or whatever. So, I don't know. I just don't think it doesn't achieve anything. The boys know what it is to miss a penalty in the Euros, so why do it?
I mean, to go back to Saka's age as well, I imagine there's people out there making those comments who have sons or daughters of a similar age to Saka. Imagine someone in your family being exposed to that, because it's so easy to put this kind of context of they're international footballers. They deserve all the abuse they can get if they let us down as a country. But there is a person there. There is a person on the other side of that receiving that abuse that it is completely unwarranted. Completely unwarranted. They've stepped up to take the penalty because that is who our country has, through years of playing football at low levels, working up for years and years, dreaming of playing for England, have stepped up and take that penalty. Like, yes, I think Saka stepping up to take it was the wrong decision, but that was Gareth's decision, not Saka's. He said, "I will take a penalty at the age of 19 for my country," and try and score, and to then receive that type of abuse is genuinely it's just disgraceful. And there needs to be a crackdown on social media in some way, shape or form. We're discussing this before the pod. There needs to be some way, like on bank apps, now with Monzo, you have to send a video in confirming you are who you are, saying that you give authorization for this account to be set up. Why is that not on social media? When the damage it can do to people, and it's not just social media, this is obviously a wider issue. It doesn't just occur on social media, but this is a problem that needs to be addressed by social media in general, and to stop this, because people think it's acceptable. And before the podcast we said, if you know any of these people, if you recognise one of those Twitter handles and you see it and you know it's wrong, say something. Because no one around us, I've not seen anyone that I know, is saying anything. And I know if I saw that, I would be in contact with other people who agree with me and say, look, we need to step in and say something. Because this person, they may be inherently racist, or they may just be saying racist things, and I don't want to get like that. I don't want to sound ignorant to that being different, but they are just saying something potentially to just hurt someone, and it does hurt, and it needs to change. So if you are someone who knows one of these people, it's very unlikely. We have about a listenership of about 5, but like if you do know one of these,
my mum sat there.
If you do know one of these people, genuinely speak up and just think before you post on social media in general. We were discussing this before. People break into the stadium, people looting. It's not funny. It's at the expense of other people. Have fun, but not at the expense of other people. It's gone too far. Just England fans in general. I love the passion we have for football, but to go back to the initial point, it is just a game, and no one should be subject to personal abuse, racist or not. But particularly with the focus that there is on racism and the acknowledgement that people should have of how bad it is in this country and across the world, it's just not acceptable. So that's my two pence on the subject, but
I agree. It's basically the example I think of is the Villarreal Man United penalty shootout. David De Gea, a seasoned pro, has saved Man United, been their player of the year 4 or 5 times on the bounce. Steps up, misses a penalty. It happens. He's tried to execute it. It's not come off. The keeper's been good all shootout. And he didn't get any of the sort of abuse. I'm not a Man United fan, so I don't move in those circles, but I imagine he got some abuse, but it wasn't personal. It was down to how he executed in that penalty shootout. So when it comes to Sterling, and I don't even think the issue is that people, because when the whole George Floyd thing happened last year, I was like, something that's personal to me is feeling like people accept your culture for music and food and stuff, but then anything else you're not good for. And Clara Amfo spoke about it on Radio 1, and people have been talking about it on Twitter, and I don't think it is that when it's going well they're celebrated. I think when Sterling scored in the first game, he was the goal was celebrated. It wasn't Sterling. The black players are tolerated playing for England because they know nowadays if they're so overt about it then they'll be kicked out. But otherwise, it's just tolerated. And then when it goes bad, well, then that's just an excuse for the floodgates to open and to lambast them on Twitter and Instagram. It's just not right. And as I mentioned, it's a difficult balance to strike, but it's one we've got to try and find. And it just needs to be addressed without this sort of airtime that they're getting. But then how do you do it? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's just it's just ridiculous. It's exactly what you said. Really, you just how do you address it without actually addressing it? But yeah, it is ridiculous. Pretty grim, pretty horrible, and people who do it should really be ashamed of themselves because it is actually atrocious.
And I think a wider issue is football needs to actually start to think about what message it sends out. We stand up against racism. We stand up against abuse. But by the way, just watch that ref receive an absolute ton of abuse from players surrounding him, calling him, and the fans sending a load of abuse. It is a culture within football. Look at rugby. I'm not being funny. Like it's not got as bigger, not a bigger fan base. But the fans can sit next to each other. They can be on the opposite teams. The ref has one player come up to him and the captain apologises if he speaks out of turn. People who
He apologises when coming up to him.
Yeah,
like,
sorry, ref.
Sorry
Do you
for
mind if
bothering
I have
you.
your time? No, get lost. Okay, ref, I'll come back in 5. Is that okay? Like, there is a culture you are teaching there in just general manners that you shout abuse at the ref, but you say, "Oh, come on, ref, that's the wrong decision." Like, you don't shout a racist comment. You don't sound a personally abusive comment. Like, as I say, I'm not going to say that it's perfect in rugby, but you're teaching a general culture of respect in the game. And the fact that the football, there is abuse of the referee from players, from the fans, and that it is acceptable to basically riot against other fans, that is a wider issue. And I think that you've got two blending. You've got the wider issue of racism, you've got the wider issue of football, and then you get some of these people in the middle who cross over, and it's not all of one or all of the other, who cross over and do things that they just think, well, this is football. That player missed, so I now abuse him. Oh, and he's black, so I'm going to be racist because, of course, he's missed it because he's black.
Well, that's what I just don't understand is why the immediate go. And then I know, as I say, people are now seeing examples of it online, that's how you get to someone is by racially abusing them. But why the automatic, as I said, David De Gea, a white man, messes up in a penalty shootout. His teammate, Axel Tuanzebe, a 20-something-year-old player, gets the ball kicked at him from like 5 yards away. It deflects in on him for an own goal, and he gets abused after the game on Instagram. What is it about being black that makes people think? And I know it's a historical thing and it's ingrained in people, and it's going to take a while to change it. But why do people think that it's okay? It genuinely baffles me, and we keep going around in circles, and people keep saying we need to change it. It's not fine, and I applaud Gary Neville for how vocal he's been, but just continually saying we condemn this and something needs to change. Nothing's happening. As you mentioned at the start, the Super League got shut down within a week because and the whole thing was, it affects the man on the street, the person coming to the game, the jobs, the love of the game, all this sort of stuff. People in football are being affected now by racism that's going on. Where is the same sort of response to kind of address it in the same way? And I guess it comes down to it's not important enough. In that instance, money was on the line, so people cared. Now it is just a black person, and I don't know if any of you know him, but there's this guy called Sideman. He's on Instagram, and he quite often does Instagram TV videos when this sorts of thing happens. And he's like, we're just treated as cattle. We're a subspecies. We're fine when we go out there and we run around for you, and football almost comes home. But once it actually gets down to caring about them as a person, they don't matter. And that's what it comes down to ultimately.
It's just, yeah, it is just so sad that that's the case. And,
it's ridiculous.
We're 3 people on a podcast, but that things need to change.
Well, the thing is, we're preaching to the choir here.
Yeah.
All 3 of us are in agreement, and the vast majority of
I think it's the first time we've ever agreed.
I think the vast majority, all 5 of our listeners are in agreement as well. And if you don't agree with us, then please don't listen to us because we don't want to have you around. But it is just, as I say, we're preaching to the choir. But I just think part of it is we need to get it off our chest, and part of it is if this goes some way to changing someone who listens to this podcast, their outlook on things, then it is worth it. But I mean, all in all, a great tournament. I think, as I said, it's kind of rekindled my love for football. It's just been, or international football, let's say. But it, just marred at the end by, and I didn't try to be, a psychic, but I tweeted earlier today that my overriding thought when each of those boys missed their penalty last night wasn't, the immediate disappointment of England having missed another penalty in a shootout. It was what we woke up to this morning. And I just knew, and it is sad because it's one of those things, I've kind of become numb to incidents like George Floyd happening, because that started happening in terms of being public knowledge. And you see it most weeks. And now it's the same thing with football. It's just become the norm. And it's a crying shame that is the case. But that was my immediate reaction, was they're going to be, inundated with ridiculous comments on their timeline and stuff. But then the disappointment of the shootout set in, and I sat there for 20 minutes just staring at the screen after the final penalty was saved. But
yeah, and we are gonna talk some FPL, and move on. But if you do ever want to speak to any of us about that issue in general as well, we're all available on Twitter. I have an inactive Twitter account, but I will become active to discuss the issue with you if you feel like you have something to say to us on that. As I said, we're only 3 people on the podcast, but the more we talk, the more we discuss it, the better hopefully it will get. So do get in contact with us, and we'll give our details as per usual at the end of the pod.
Well, we can now turn from the disappointment of the Euros to the impending disappointment of Fantasy Premier League.
Hey, what do you mean? Wait. Before
I was going to say, how did you end up doing?
I finished in the 7,000th in the end.
Oh, sick, mate. For context, Tom, after the first 2 game weeks or something like that, was in the top 10 or something stupid like that.
Yeah, like first.
Yeah, I was 5th in the world. That's
This is Euros FPL, by the way, for context as well.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. FPL. I'm still an FPL dummy, but Euros FPL. I'm actually not too bad at, apparently. Mainly because I'm just incredibly patriotic and just stuck a load of England players in. But,
no, a big congratulations on that. I did see that. Incredible finish. But I think the reason we're all here is the price rises or not the price rises, the price
changes,
list release. For the upcoming season.
Yeah.
What did you boys make of it? Any standouts?
well, have you done any drafts yet?
I have. I've put mine in already.
I haven't.
Yeah.
I haven't even decided on my team name yet.
No,
You haven't decided your team
Trying
name?
to come up with something suitably punny.
I've got a perfect. I've got a perfect. It's Brentford based. It's punny. I'm there.
No, I've done a full draft. I just had a look at kind of, because it was the best way to give me an idea of kind of which players were tempting me and which players were not. Because when you actually come to putting them in that draft, you think too expensive, not worth it. But the kind of my initial thoughts on the prices, I think they're probably about right. But
I think a toddler's come in, hit copy. They've hit Control C and then Control X, and then there's just the really obvious ones and gone, I will put him down 2 mil. I will put him up a little bit. There we go, done. Because I'm pretty sure everyone is exactly the same price, pretty much.
There's nothing too surprising.
I think. Well, should we? I don't know. We'll do it as. Should we do Snog, Marry, Avoid first, and then discuss some general players that we want to highlight? So, Snogs. If I kick it off.
Well, should we tell people what that actually is?
Yeah.
I feel like,
welcome, new listeners.
So if you haven't listened to us before, and basically, so what we do on our normal weekly podcast is Snog, Marry, Avoid. So we all pick a player who we think is going to be a short-term punt, or in this case, I think it's going to be a season punt. I guess would be the right.
I think that'd be the marry.
Right? Yeah. Okay, then the marry is going to be basically a long term. Who you're going to have for the long term, and basically avoid is who's not going to be coming in your team for the entire season for FPL.
Oh, okay.
And so
you've dropped me in it there.
Yeah,
good to see some things never change.
Never change. So we'll start with the Snogs. Who wants to go first?
I mean, I'll kick it off with just a Liverpool bargain, in my opinion. I think Jota is an absolute steal at 7.5 million. I think he'll be in a hell of a lot of drafts. In fact, I can probably check his ownership now and he'll be like in the 30s. It's 11.7. That's awkward.
Some things do really never change.
And honestly, I think what Gareth Southgate did wrong is not bring on Diogo Jota soon enough.
He should have done. Why did he not play Ronaldo? It was just ridiculous. He was the top scorer in the tournament.
He's got everyone at his disposal.
Imagine Messi, Ronaldo, and bring on Neymar as well as an impact.
Come on,
it just made sense.
Come on, Gareth. But quite frankly, with the amount of players that are going to be on demand from the start of the season, De Bruyne is now up at 12 million. Fernandes is up at 12 million. Son, if you're that way inclined, i.e. nuts, is 10 million. Salah and Mane at 12.5 and 12 respectively are just so expensive. And when you've got other people who I don't feel have that direct replacement, like Fernandes, I just don't see the Man United option I want instead. Potentially Pogba if he decides to turn up, potentially Sancho. But I just love Fernandes for what he did for me last season. De Bruyne, again, he's just such quality. Sterling's only $1 million cheaper. Gundogan I don't think will have the impact, and Foden maybe. But with Jota I'm like, okay, he actually seems like a pretty solid player who, if he plays the way for Liverpool he did before he got injured, he'll be an absolute steal at 7.5 million. And they've got some really nice opening fixtures. Norwich and Burnley and Leeds. Unfortunately, we do concede. Crystal Palace and Brentford, sorry Tom, and Watford within the first, and Brighton within the first 10. It is just such a nice run of fixtures to kick off. So I just love Diogo Jota for that price point.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you, honest. I really like him. He's in my first draft at the moment. And you don't have to be sorry about you saying Brentford in that fixture run. I'm just happy the fact that we're there.
Wow,
so.
that's cute.
We're just taking part.
Yeah, taking part that counts, isn't it? So no, I really like Diogo Jota. I think, but yeah, before he got injured, he was fantastic. He obviously hasn't been in the best form since he came back in from injury, and he wasn't fantastic over the Euros. I think that's why his ownership's lower. But for 7.5 million, and I would say, and Cam can disagree completely with me, I'd say he potentially could even start in front of Bobby potentially next year, because I don't think Bobby seems to just be imploding slowly. So
I don't know, it's one of those things. Klopp loves him, obviously. He was one of the first players he brought in, and is, I think, still the case that he's made the most appearances under Klopp of any player. And he did pick up his form towards the back end of the season, has been playing for Brazil, etc. I think it will be a rotation case though, so I think, Jota has a very good chance of starting some if not most games. The only thing is, I agree with Josh. I was quite surprised that his price wasn't slightly higher. We had a discussion not long after the last game finished where we were talking about who we expected to go up or down. And I was saying, Sterling has definitely got to drop because he's not delivered this season. And Josh was like, well, the way they do it is that they're not going to take the risk that he does perform, and they've underpriced him. So I thought, similar to Jota, he came in, was he 6.57 for Liverpool? And the run of, when he first started, when he first came in for us, before he got injured, he was unbelievable. And then when he came back, he was on a really good run as well. So I would expected him to at least be 8.5, maybe even pushing 9 as a midfielder, just because they might have that worry that if he kicks on with the sort of form that he did last year, then he's really, really underpriced. But for whatever reason, they've not seemed to pick up on that. So, he is a real good bargain, I think. Tom, I mean, it's not really a surprise, but who's your snog?
Well, so it has to be a punt. So I've gone with Brian Mbeumo, and everyone's now going, who the fuck
Who does he play
Brian
for?
Mbeumo? He plays for Brentford, my friend. I was tempted to just do my snog and Mary's both as Brentford players. I almost said snog, marry and avoid as Brentford players. I probably could do, to be fair. But yeah, I'm going with Brian Mbeumo as a little punt if anyone actually fancies a punt on a new player into the league. He has the world's easiest start in game week 1. He's at home against Arsenal, so that's an easy 3 points for the Bees. They've actually got Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, Brighton and Wolves, so it's not actually a ridiculous run of games for the first 5. For me, he is actually, in my opinion, potentially has more points in him than Ivan Toney this year. He actually could potentially play as part of a front 2, and he's only 5.5 mil. His stats over the last 2 years have been pretty good in the Championship. 8 goals and 11 assists last season, and obviously he was part of the famed BMW, which was Benrahma, Watkins, and Mbeumo, of course.
Renowned.
And he got 15 goals in that season. So he's got goals in him. He's only 21 years old, and I would imagine he will be the standout performer for Brentford this year. So for me, 5.5 mil. Well, he's one of 3 Brentford players in my team. Unfortunately, you can't have 16 players, so there's 15 Brentford players. So yeah, Brian Mbeumo, that for me.
I have to I'll make a quick passing comment. I'm just gonna have to agree, because usually I have some grounds to disagree or agree, but I have no idea who the fuck he is. So I'm just going to say I'm gonna say good tip, Tom. I'll put him in my team, and then not.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's more the case of if you say so.
Although I do actually believe you, Tom, so it's genuinely making me think. I've got Ivan Toney in my draft, but I could genuinely be swayed to find another option, downgrade someone in my midfield, go with Mbeumo and upgrade a striker. So thanks for that.
I just think he's probably the best 5.5. With all the 5.5 midfielders as well, they're usually either promoted players so he's a good bench fodder as well. 5.5 mil. The only one in that's really ridiculously cheap maybe is Almiron, but other than that, 5.5 mil for midfielder. Stick him on your bench and he'll score a couple of goals this season, I'm sure. So
no, as we've just mentioned, the world-renowned BMW, known across the globe. a former Brentford boy is my snog in Ollie Watkins. I was a serious doubter that he was going to be able to cut it in the Prem last year when he made his move from Brentford to Villa. And I was quite happily proved wrong, to be honest. What do you? Well, it'd be silly to ask, but you definitely know how many goals he finished on, Tom. What was he on?
14.
14 for a first season in the Prem.
And 9 assists.
Yeah, 9 assists.
Very tidy. So I think Villa. There's no reason why they shouldn't pick up where they left from last year. And they start against newly promoted Watford, so that's not necessarily a given, but they'd probably be considered as...
Yeah, his threat rating. Now, I don't mean anyone who probably follows FPL probably goes, you're referring to the ICT index or thingy. It's like he was first in threat, third in creativity, and fourth in influence. Now, on the stats they're tracking, that's really, really impressive. My only concern, I literally haven't been close to it, obviously it's not really happened much, is if Grealish goes, I think his value drops significantly. But I don't know if Grealish is going to go. So, those first 3 games at Watford, Newcastle, Brentford are lovely. So I do like that as a 3-week punt.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I'm looking. That's why he's in my snog section. Is just the start of the season they have, because it does after Newcastle they then have Brentford, so it picks up in difficulty.
Easy game. That's a hard game. That's a hard game for Ollie.
And then they have Chelsea, Everton, United, Spurs, so it gets decidedly harder after that. But if they're anything like they were last season, they scored against most teams they played against. So even though they may not win those games, they could still be on the score sheet, or more specifically, Watkins could be on the score sheet. So, and I like his price point. As I said, you would expect a price rise given his performance last year, but to be 7.5, I think that's pretty reasonable. It's not breaking the bank. He's still a pretty mid-price striker. So as an alternative to Calvert-Lewin, who's 8 this year, why not?
Yeah, no, I will. He's already in my team as well. Obviously, my allegiances do lie. Yeah, I think he'll be good. I think that actually he has potential to be better than last year as well, because obviously if they manage to keep Grealish, because they've also got Buendia as well now, and those two together are going to be absolutely ridiculous. If they manage to keep them both, that midfield is insane. Those two players playing together, I even potentially could start watching a lot of Aston Villa games next year, because that would be so much fun to watch.
Well, just because it's got Brentford rejects, basically.
Yeah, exactly. But also for Buendia and for Grealish in that, playing together that's going to be tasty if they stay together. I hope they do. So, Mary's, who are you sticking in for the long haul then?
Well, I think I'll carry on because we've kind of spoken about Liverpool, and I did want to talk about it now. But I'll talk about it now. Salah is very highly priced. If anything, he's actually the highest priced in the game. Who knew? But I think the value for money is there. Liverpool have a really nice start to the season again. It's a weird one. The past 3 seasons, we played the newly promoted team. I don't know if that's just the algorithm that the Premier League operate, but we played Norwich when they first came up, Leeds last year, and now Norwich again. But I think, our start to the season and just, Salah's track record, I think he's one of those, he is the sort of player that you just got to set and forget, I think.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly boring. I will admit it's incredibly boring as a punt, as a shout, but I think it's just got to be done.
It just makes sense. But do you think, so obviously you didn't listen to us last year. What we did is we tried to fight our captaincies against Salah. So basically, someone said that if you pick Salah as your captain for the entire season, can you beat Salah? Is Salah the person that we pick again this year to fight against? Or do you think there's a higher point score out there?
I think an argument has to be made for Fernandes, doesn't it?
Yeah, Bruno or Kane, I think.
Kane as well.
We could play all 3. We could all pick one and play it. So,
I mean, I'm going to be playing fantasy football a completely different way to these 2 this season, which is basically minimal thought. Someone's in form, I like him, bring him in, and see how it pans out, because I've spent so much time analysing to then finish outside the top million. So I've got better things to do than be basically ranked as one, in the top 20% of players by the end of it. I like Fernandes. I sort of, as I say, the problem with Salah for me is I feel like Jota offers enough for me to go without Salah, Whereas at the moment, it could be the case that they do, particularly Sancho. But I don't feel like anyone offers enough at Man United to get rid of Fernandes, especially when he's on pens. And I don't feel like anyone at Man City, apart from Sterling, who's 11 million anyway, so it doesn't really help me out, offers enough for me to not have De Bruyne. The only person, obviously, is will Foden get an absolute ton more minutes this season? And will he become like the star of Man City? In which case, 8 mil will be an absolute bargain for him. So yeah, that's the only reason I won't be starting Salah in my team, and I'll be gambling and literally hiding behind the sofa.
Your funeral, mate. Oh, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait for him to bang a hat-trick in the first game.
I can't wait to
That's gonna
rant.
be beautiful.
Oh god, he did it against us last time as well, didn't he? And it wasn't even a good hat-trick. Well, my being loyal, it has sort of changed since I actually did this. Kind of. My marry is Rafinha. I think he was fantastic for Leeds last season. There's nothing more fun than having a Leeds attacking player in your fantasy Premier League team because of the way they play. They just play such a sort of open football. It's just so fun to watch that you're going to enjoy having him in your squad all season. The only thing I would say is now that Harrison has confirmed that he's signed a permanent deal with Leeds, it's very close because he's now 6 million and he's getting it's very easy to underappreciate the fact that he was like, what was it, the 7th highest scoring midfielder, and he's 6 mil. And there's no reason to suggest that his points will drop. Like, there's people like Gundogan who it's like, well, I don't think I see that happening again. Souček, it's like, do I see that happening again? Potentially. Whereas Harrison, there's no reason he can't get better. The only reason I'm picking Rafinha is because, as I've just said, I'm playing very simply this season. I enjoy watching Rafinha more. Harrison's a little bit more efficient, but Rafinha's style is just so fun to watch. So for 6.5 million, stick him in there, enjoy watching the games, and realise that he's delivered you 2 points for the past 6 games, but you haven't even noticed because you're having so much fun.
Yeah, he's in mine as well. I think we're just talking all the players that have we all discussed this like secretly? He's so good. Yeah, I really like Harrison now at 6 mil as well. I am tempted. If I need another 0.5 mil somewhere, I could go Harrison instead potentially.
Come game week 5 or game week 3, I could be tempted on a double up of both of them. I'm just thinking one of them will score because they've got a lovely run of fixtures from 3 through till 10.
No, definitely. Well, talking about loyalty, my loyalty does lie with the old English boys as well. So I've decided my marry this year is going to be Luke Shaw.
Shawberto Carlos.
Shawberto Carlos, as he's now been aptly known as.
He's in my team.
He's 5.5 million as an attacking left back. Like, I don't understand what FPL would do. Like, FPL Towers, I think this year have just gone into full meltdown mode with some of these prices. Like, Rafinha at 6.5 million seems like an absolute joke. Like 5.5 million for Shaw.
Saving yourself two on Alexander Arnold and 1.5 on Robertson for the same sort of output.
Well, hopefully. And the fact now that I think potentially, obviously we're unsure on which keeper's going to start, but Maguire's looking on top form. Potential of obviously another centre back coming in for United. If they shore up as well, then you could almost have the potential of what Liverpool had a couple of seasons ago when it first started with like Van Dijk coming in. They looked so solid at the back. Clean sheets were sort of like, oh, they're just going to get another clean sheet. And attacking threat from then Shaw and Wan-Bissaka, to be fair, could actually go up. And at 5.5 million, like, yeah, we've all seen what Shaw can do now, and that was an absolutely beautiful left peg yesterday.
That was an unbelievable finish to control that on the half volley.
That really was Shawberto Carlos in all its glory, because that was absolutely glorious. So yeah, 5.5 mil. I assume his ownership must be ridiculous.
Yeah, it's 40.
Yeah, he's 40%. What an oh well. Oh god,
what a differential pick that is.
What a differential that is. God, I feel yeah.
Have you seen
for the 60% of people who haven't owned Shaw, you're idiots. So
well, that's it. It's less than 50, so it's a differential. So not in the majority. So.
I can't wait for effective ownership to come and absolutely destroy me.
I hate that term. Can we just ban that term? Can we ban effective ownership? Actually, let's ban differential as well. It's just someone I like. Like, I don't really give a shit how much who else owns him. I'm having him on team.
What do we call it instead? Okay, we're not getting the group pick. We're getting the
just say like, this is my guy.
My guy.
This is my guy and 2.3 million other people's guy as well.
Have you seen who that centre back is, Tom, that they're linked with?
It is Mr. Varane, isn't it?
They've been given permission to have personal talks with him, so that looks like it's
I cannot wait. To be honest, as much as I'd love Varane to join United, so Shaw becomes a better FPL option. I'd also love Varane to talk to United, then sign a new contract with Real Madrid for double his money. So
it's funny, isn't it, that they say that they've opened up for them to have personal conversations. It's like when you're like in a business, you don't go, oh yeah, we're thinking of hiring this guy, so we've opened up for personal conversations. We're going to invite him for an interview. But like instead, you sit down with Varane and you have a little bit of a chat with him and go, do you prefer, would you prefer curry on a Tuesday, or would you like to have like fish and chips? Like personal talks always make me laugh. But I suppose they're trying to entice him to the Manchester.
It's the same with what happened with Ramos, wasn't it? Because obviously Ramos was linked with United, and then he was linked for ages, went to United, had personal talks with him, and then he just signed a new contract with Real Madrid for double his money. It was like, I can just see it happening again. And the way that United operate, it is so potentially likely.
Yeah. Should we do some avoids? Some people we don't like. Can I start?
Yeah.
I think avoid... Now, Tom's dropped me in a bit by saying avoid them all season, because I don't actually mean that. So I'll say mine is slightly different. I've said avoid Trent. I recognise they have a good start. I recognise he's the second highest scoring defender. But as it was last season at the start, every draft with Trent in, the rest of your team, despite it only being 2 million, it somehow looks shit. And when you take Trent out of your team, it just opens up so many options. And I've only got 2 premiums in my team, and I still have 0.0 million, and I've only got one 5.5 defender. I've got 4.5s in goal. I've got 4.5s all across the back, apart from Shaw, who you've discussed. I've got De Bruyne and Fernandes, and then everyone else is just a mid-price player, and I've got 0 million left. So for me, someone who's that expensive, and until we know how Liverpool are going to play defensively this season, I just don't think it's worth it. The moment it looks like Liverpool have found their old defensive form, I'd be shitting myself, and I'd have one of them straight back in, Robertson or Trent, and I'd probably go with Trent, just because he's so creative when he is on form. And I reckon he'd get more confidence back if they were a bit more defensively sound. But for now, I would recommend avoiding Trent from the outset and gamble a bit like Salah.
Yeah.
Where is he? Straight in my team. Cam's he in yours?
Straight in my basket. As I said, I've not made my draft yet, so I've not really thought about it. I mean, I haven't thought about it. I can see the merit in what Josh is saying. I do think we have to wait and see what Liverpool's going to turn up. We obviously picked up our form at the back end of the season to end up finishing in the Champions League spots. But since then, Trent has been injured, and pre-season you've had a break in games and stuff, so things can be totally different by the time we come back. I think you can kind of have assets elsewhere that will cover him for the time being, and because I think defensively how sound Liverpool are is important, but also you pay that much for Trent and Robertson because of their attacking output as well, and they were both severely lacking in that department by their own high standards last season. We wait to see if they can pick that up that form again. On the same sort of lines, I'm going against my boy Bobby. We spoke about him earlier, but I just think for his price point, again, it's one of those things where he kind of consistently is 9 or 9.5. I just don't think he's worth that money, really. I'd be more than happy to be proved wrong this start of this season, but for a good few years now, his kind of attacking output's been on the decline. So unless he kind of drastically picks that up, then I think there's better options. Like I've mentioned, Watkins at 7.5. Danny Ings is a proven... I'm so sad still that we sold him. It was just unfortunate that he was so stricken with injuries, but he is a quality Premier League striker, and he's only 8 million. He somehow dropped 0.5 despite still scoring double figures, I'm pretty sure, in goals last year. So
you've then got
Bobby's too much.
Calvert-Lewin and Bamford as well at $1 million cheaper, particularly Bamford. He's a full 50 points ahead, and he's probably been forgotten about a bit, but he may only get better. And then Calvert-Lewin, they've got some really good fixtures to start. He was a bit of a presence. I have to agree, for 9 million. I think to get people even considering Firmino, you have to put him at 8. and even maybe 7.5 because that's the kind of value he's
I think
putting
even
out.
eight you don't go from.
No,
really.
which is so I think 9 just completely.
I think anything less than 8 is kind of being a bit cheeky in terms of getting people to consider. I think 8.5 is about fair because he still plays for Liverpool and there's still the good chance that he will get on the score sheet. But coming back to what we said about kind of them undervaluing him and stuff. But yeah, he's definitely not 9 or 9.5 as he started last year. So yeah, I would avoid him and see how he goes.
But some players are absolute bargains at 9 million, aren't they, Tom? Who's your avoid?
Yeah, my other 9 million. The other 9 million forward to avoid is Timo Werner. If you didn't listen to us last year, then you know I absolutely hate him. Yeah, he's just the epitome of everything that's wrong with football, really, isn't he? So,
but you hate him for his footballing reasons and not because he's German or white. So
no. Oh yeah, I hate him. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I hate him purely for footballing reasons. The fact that he can't score. To be fair, it changed slightly because obviously he couldn't score against England, so therefore I made me like him slightly better. He's one of those. I think I said to Josh, obviously we said that, you know, this is a player we're going to avoid for the entire season. He's one of those players that I'm 100% avoiding at the start of the season. I don't see how all of a sudden he's going to jump to some amazing form, but there is going to be a season where all of a sudden Timo Werner finds form and starts absolutely banging goals. And at that point, I'm going to be jumping all over him. But at the moment, he's still the bloke that just can't score. His finishing is just, oh God.
I think this is going to be his breakout season. And I mean, I thought last year he was going to hit the ground running and he didn't. I had him in my team for the first 3 or 4 game weeks and then shifted him on. But I think he could do well this year. I won't have him from the start. Again, I'll monitor his progress, but I think he could do well this year.
Yeah. I kind of agree. At the back end of the season, he's starting to look a little bit better. But if we use that to transition to some players, let's just throw some names out there that we didn't, the kind of the honourable mentions. Some players that I think their prices are an absolute steal. So starting with actually the English, so I think Foden at 8 mil, if he starts, is an absolute steal. If he just becomes like a consistent. We talked about protecting themselves and saying, well, we'll keep Sterling at 11 million because, you know, if he turns up, he'll be worth 11 million. If Foden turns up, he will be worth 10 plus million. He was that good at times in the season whenever he played. I think to have him at 8, I get the logic because he's still not like solidified there, but I think that's an absolute steal. And keeping on the English theme, I think Mason Mount at 7.5 million.
I was going to say that.
He's the playmaker for Chelsea and he's 7.5 million. Like, that's an absolute bargain. So I think there's some really good players. I've got most of them in my team. And just one final one from me.
I've just got all the best players in my team.
I do.
I'm so good at
this
the game.
always happens. Like, for some odd reason, like they just don't turn up. Inacho. If he solidifies a starting place this season, which off the back of his late season performances, there's no reason he can't. At 7.5 million, you've got a striker for Leicester. I think when you look at those three and you think you've got Foden, you've got Mount, and you've got Inacho, all at those price points, scoring the amount that they are capable of scoring. I think there's some absolute bargains out there this season.
Yeah, I think Cavani's worth a shout at 8 mil as well. I'm surprised. What he came in at about 8 mil.
He's
8.5. 8.5.
Martial at 8 as well. If he finds form, that's a bargain.
Yeah, I think as well. Robert Sanchez as well, the goalkeeper at 4.5 mil for Brighton is. I don't understand how he's been priced so cheaply this year. Like we've seen, obviously Martinez has jumped up to 5.5, and at 4.5 mil. I'm pretty sure, because obviously he didn't start the start of the season, it was Matt Ryan, and so obviously his points are skewed quite a lot, so it doesn't look as good, but he got 10 clean sheets in some amount of games.
Like 15. No, maybe not.
Well, if you compare minutes, he played 2,400 versus Martinez's 3,400. So if you do 1,000 over, it's basically close to a third more points, so you'd have been on about 130-ish points. 120.
Yeah, so as a 4.5 keeper this year, I think he is the 4.5 keeper.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, Brighton looked quite good defensively last year.
Well, I think they're still they will be fighting relegation again. So they, it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be conceding bucket loads of goals, but I think that's kind of what they're bearing in mind, that he still does play for Brighton. Whereas Aston Villa kind of knocking in around mid-table, so...
Yeah. Also, bargain of the season, defender, Charlie Taylor.
I still don't agree with your Twitter bio being mid-term Charlie Taylor enthusiast. That's got to be changed to long-term.
Maybe now, yeah. I actually it was so funny because obviously, I'm a Brentford fan. And I've been accused in the last few weeks of being a Burnley fan because I got Charlie Taylor as my top thing. They were like, "Why are you talking about Brentford, mate? You're a Burnley fan." I was like, "No, I just appreciate good football when I see it, my friend." So,
I appreciate a god when I see one.
Yeah, that blonde-haired Adonis. No, he's not a fantastic player, but he is my team. So,
conversely, has anyone seen anyone who they think's outrageously priced?
Aubameyang. I still even think at 10 mil.
I think what is he, 10?
No, it's not that bad. It's quite good, to be fair.
I think
it's a 2 mil drop, so
it's a big drop.
And anything else would have been just an insult.
It really would have been. I think one that potentially has potential. There's two players actually. It depends who gets the starting role for this year. Man City have already talked about the fact that they're probably not going to be able to afford to buy Harry Kane. And so starting up front will be either Ferran Torres or Gabriel Jesus. Now, if it is Ferran Torres, that is an absolute steal because I thought he looked very good in the Euros. He played really well. I think he's only 7 mil.
He is.
Which is absolutely ridiculous. So, you could potentially have the starting striker for City. Obviously, it's Man City, so he'll more than likely be benched half the games. But at 7 mil, that could be an absolute steal.
Yeah, you can bench him. That's not a problem. I think as well, Saka 6.5. The way he's been improving, he could be an absolute steal. That's a really good price. Will Pepe finally have his breakout season at 7.5?
Thomas, I thought he played well towards the end of last season. I think he could be in for a good season this year.
10 goals and 3 assists from 1,600 minutes. If you multiply that up to 3,000, obviously that's a lot of a spectacle, big, but that would be 20 goals and 6 assists if he had actually played the full amount of minutes, which is actually a bit crazy when you think about it. So I don't know. I think this is that I've just about forgotten about how much I hate FPL and football in general. And I'm in that romantic period of actually thinking that I like football and that I like FPL. So I'm really enjoying just looking at all these players, see all the potential. And I can't wait. I literally can't wait for the first game when I score 32 points and there's I work out that the team that I would have picked actually, when I actually think about it, would have scored 164 because I would have clearly triple captained Calvert-Lewin in the first game at home to Southampton when he got 4 goals. I just knew that's what I wanted to do, but just didn't have the guts to see it through. I just can't wait for that moment. I don't know about you boys.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it, but yeah.
I'm looking forward to this season. I'm looking forward to the season because I'm a Brentford fan and we're finally in the Premier League, which is absolutely ridiculous. I've just thought of 2 people that we've not mentioned as well, which potentially could be. I think he's gone under the radar because he's been injured for such a long time. But Harvey Barnes.
It's an equaliser.
Harvey Barnes. Obviously, he was absolutely ridiculous that run of games, and everyone's talking about England call-ups and he'll be in the Euros and he's going to be playing. Obviously, he got injured, but if he's back fit and is playing as well as he was, then at 7 million, I think that's that is ridiculously cheap.
And can we just do that? Can I just continue on this theme of multiplying people's goals to just indicate a stat that's completely invaluable?
Yes, please.
If you were to look at Joseph Willock, he actually is an absolute bargain at 6 million because he played 1,200 minutes and scored 8 goals. Now, if you multiply that by the number of minutes that he could have played, that's basically 24 goals and he wins the Golden Boot. So, I just thought it was worth mentioning that Willock is an absolute steal. He's only owned by 0.7%, and I can't believe it. Also, Reed Vald is great.
Do we?
Jacob Murphy.
Yeah, Jacob
he's
Murphy.
Always one, he's always one to
Honestly,
get. Jacob
best
Murphy and
points
Reedwell, they're
per
always the
game.
ones, aren't they?
9 points per game is something outrageous.
Do we think that Jay Lings is going to stay at Man United, or is he going to be on another loan spell somewhere? Because he's 7 mil.
Oh no, but this is
I
so
think
typical.
I think he moves. To be honest, I don't think he stays. Let's be honest. Now they've signed Sancho, I don't think he's going to get the minutes, is he?
That's not going to stop them from making sure they don't give him to the minutes somewhere else. I think they gave him to West Ham thinking that they were handicapping their chances, and then he suddenly turned up. They're like, shit, you're not actually meant to be decent at football. And now they'll just like clamp down on him and keep him there. It'd be an absolute shame if that happens. He should go, but like I would be worried.
And are we going to chance our arm on the Manchester City defence this year with the merry-go-round of fullbacks, or are we going to steer clear?
This is just so strange, isn't it? Because after all the drama of how like essential it was to have a Man City defender, Robertson and Trent finished above them, Cresswell finished above them, Wan-Bissaka finished above them, Chilwell and Matt Target split Diaz and Cancelo, Dunk wasn't far behind. Like all this drama, Mings was on the same total as Stones. Like I think own them for that period where they find that form again. But I don't think like I will. I just need to remember this season that no player is essential. Is essentially what I'm going to go with. I'm definitely not a Man City defender. Apart from who? Apart from Sterling.
Apart from Salah.
Oh,
Salah. What do you think of Sterling's price? So I'd say before, obviously he didn't have the best of seasons last year, but has obviously found a bit of goal scoring form, and to be honest, I thought looked really good in the Euros. If he brings that form, does he get another good season like he has? You know, he has had unbelievable seasons before. And to be fair, last year he didn't even finish that lowly on the midfielder rankings. You know, he was, I think, still top 10. So obviously he's 11 million. So you know it's completely different looking at compared to obviously you've got Jack Harrison who's 6 mil. Well, last year was 5 mil on a few more points than him. But you know, if you think about, so I'm looking at stats now for the 3 seasons before last season. He had 20 goals in 19-20 and 6 assists, 17 goals and 15 assists in 18-19, and 18 goals and 17 assists in 17-18. So if he brings that form back, I don't think 11 million is actually that crazy. When you got like Fernandes at 12, Kane at 12.5, and with obviously Man City looking probably, you gotta say, maybe one of the favourites again for next year. Obviously, if Pep actually plays him.
Part of me just wants to make an England squad.
It's coming home. Brexit FC. Is that going to be
Maybe
your
I'll
team
do
then?
that. Maybe I'll sacrifice my season and make an England squad and just see what happens. Because I'm looking at the amount of players that you could actually have, and it is very exciting. I think Sterling is like, yeah, I would love him at 11 million if he turns up. Like, it's always frustrating. The minutes he plays, like, you know, he had 2,500 this season versus, and he's never really kind of got over 2.6. But no one at Man City does. But you're gonna have to own one. So yeah, let's check in next week, and I might have genuinely gone for an all England squad because it sounds exciting.
Yeah, basically all we've rambled on for God knows how long we've rambled on for now is basically we have no idea what FPL team's going to be this year, and we have very strong views about the England performance instead. Basically, we have better views on the England performance than we do on actually FPL.
Is Ivan Toney or Mbeumo English? I'm assuming Mbeumo isn't, but is it Ivan Toney by chance?
Ivan Toney is indeed English, but he potentially may send his allegiance to Jamaica.
Right. Okay. Well, that's close enough for me.
I think he's like got, because obviously Jamaica are trying to build this absolute wonder team, aren't they? Got like Antonio and
Leon
Wait,
Bailey.
Mikel Antonio.
Well,
Antonio.
Because he's not getting any England game time, he might switch and play for Jamaica.
I think he already has. I think he has.
Has he?
I think so. Don't quote me on that.
Well, they've got Leon Bailey. Ravel Morrison has gone and played for him.
Yeah, it was reported in March 2021 that Toney could be called up for the Jamaican national team as a plot by the Jamaican Football Federation to purposely target a number of English-born players for call-ups to increase their chance of qualifying for the 2022 World Cup. So Ivan Toney is English, but potentially he could be playing for Jamaica instead. And Mbeumo's French.
Cool. Well, on that note, I think we should probably sign off. But I'm actually going to make a commitment. I've made the decision. I'll even pay the money. I'm going to make an all-England squad. Look, it didn't come home yesterday, but
Josh is going to bring it home on the FPL.
Yeah, I'm going to bring it home and win with an All England squad. So you heard it here first. It's coming home on FPL.
Yeah. So obviously, thank you very much for listening to us. A big shout out, obviously, to Planet FPL. Thank you for hosting us this week. We apologise for the length of our podcast, the ramblings that we've gone on. But if you have enjoyed us listening to us, then obviously you can catch us on. It's been such a long time. I don't even know where you can find us.
Tune in.
Spotify, the Apple Podcasts,
Google Podcasts,
all the usual ones.
Google Podcast, iHeartRadio. I'm trying to think of the really niche ones that we all got on. It was like some really ridiculous ones that were really shit.
Shack or something.
Yeah, I can't think of them.
Basically, whatever you're listening to us on now, you can continue listening to us on. But on our own channel.
And we are also, two of them are on Twitter. They're at FPL Dummy Tom and at FPL Dummy Cam, and are also at FPL By Dummies. And I am at FPL Dummy Josh. I'm not that active on it, but as we said earlier, if you do want to have a conversation with anything on this podcast, FPL related, football related, or racism related, do get in contact with us, because we do want to have conversations. So please reach out, and I'm sure any of us would be keen to have a conversation.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we will be starting up our league again, I'm sure, as well. So we've not as yet done that, but when we will, the code will be on our Twitter accounts, and after each of our podcasts, we'll remind you of that, so you can join us and pit yourselves against Three Dummies and see how much smarter you are. But
no, I have done it already.
Have you?
So if you do want to join our league, it's UEVAGU. It doesn't quite roll off the tongue as much as last year's code, so we have to come up with some shitty way to remember that, which is not very fun. What else is there to say? Thanks for listening to us.
Thanks for listening.
We've been pretty shit as normal.
Yeah, and we'll be speaking.
And we're back
to you very soon.
Yeah, we're back again just before the start of the Premier League season, I guess. To confirm Josh's All England team. You can see my full Brentford team, and Cam will have a team that actually might win FPL. So yeah, we'll speak to you soon.
Cheers, boys. See you soon.